sing, children of the world. Come together and hear the call. Sing, children of the world. Islam will unite us all. Subhanallah walhamdulillah wallahu akbar. Subhanallah walhamdulillah wallahu akbar.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome viewers to another episode of Our Schools, What is Missing? In this series we've been discussing a variety of issues surrounding schools, parents, heads, students, and all the different stakeholders in schools, and various different aspects of what is missing and what is needed to make our schools, to raise the level of performance of our schools. In this particular episode we're going to be discussing competition. Welcome Dr. Mamdouh Mohamed. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to you. You've been with us for the whole series, and we've been taking a lot of your very valuable advice. In this episode we're going to be discussing competition.
Okay.
Doctor, is competition, is it a healthy thing in schools?
I think it may be a double-edged weapon, as they say. If it is properly used in some areas, it can be healthy. If it's used in improper places, it will lead to unhealthy results. And the Quran itself guides us to where it can be healthy, where it can have positive
Well, that's interesting, because I was going to say, competition seems to be a modern phenomena, a modern concept. We live in a competitive world, so we have to compete all against each other. I was going to ask you the traces.
I think it's something good. People, because people are fascinated nowadays to hear the word. It's a new thing. It's an advanced thing. This is, to the best of my knowledge, is not true. Competition has been going on since the time of the children of Adam and the early time. They competed with each other, and there were some issues between them. Competition is going on between animals. Competition is going on between every two people. They are, in one area for whatever reason. We can talk about the reasons for that, but this is, I think, not the topic of today. But here what you're saying, that can it be unhealthy? Yes, it can be unhealthy. Islam, you'll find all the Quranic texts and the prophetic sayings would guide us that these are areas of competition. It's the areas of goodness. When you want, if you find a feel of goodness, some people are trying to make a good project. This is an area that we can make a good project. You're trying to make a good school, especially a public school, where there's no extra benefit is coming to you. So two public schools are competing with each other to raise the standards of their students. So this is an area of competition. Competition is that an area of two companies are trying to make the best product that would help the people. And we would encourage people to work in the area of, for example, medicine, discovering new medicines, because the Prophet ﷺ told that every disease has a remedy for it and has a treatment for it.
Okay, so we've got here that competition is good in certain areas, and we need to define those areas. And how do we define those areas? We define them by, they must have a good premise.
Aspect. And when we say good or bad, this word good is not defined by a human being. It's defined only by God. Because what is good for you may not be good for him. So we are human beings, right? We are sometimes biased. So the definition of a good citizen in Russia, for example, may not be the definition of a good citizen in Japan.
Right? And of course we've got many examples from the Sahaba there with a very famous occasion when Umar and Abu Bakr were competing together.
Absolutely.
Would you like to just explain that a little bit?
Yes, wonderful.
to us?
For example, the Prophet ﷺ all the time tried to leave it open for people to compete. This is based on the divine instructions, divine guidance for humanity, is that, okay, these are the areas, وَفِي ذَلِكَ فَلْيَتَنَافَسِ الْمُتَنَافِسُونَ. These are the areas where the competitors, if they want to compete, let them compete. Compete in the welfare of humanity. Compete to do something good for people. This is the area of competition. But the unhealthy aspect of it is that when they compete to conquer each other, when they compete to destroy each other, when they compete to get the maximum benefit for themselves and the least benefit for others, these are all unhealthy forms of competition. Going back to the topic that you mentioned, Abu Bakr and Umar, for example, one time the Prophet ﷺ made a fundraising, and he was asking the people, okay, how much did you pay and how much did you pay? And the Prophet ﷺ wanted to teach them. So he asked, how much did you pay? A person would say that I paid such and such. So he asked Umar ibn Khattab, how much did you pay? He said that I paid half of my property. Half of my property. Competing with the others. Try to imagine a person owns, such an amount of money, $100,000, for example, and he pays half of it, all what he owns. There's nothing left except the other half. And then he came to Abu Bakr and asked him, how much did you pay? Abu Bakr, he said that I paid all my property. There is nothing left for me. For that cause, for that good cause that, you asked us to fund it, I paid all the property, all the money that I have. And here is the beautiful competition. They are competing with each other in the area of goodness, for a good cause,
to give for
which is not defined by a human being, but defined by a messenger of God, whom whatever he says it as revelation from Almighty Allah. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam.
So, Doctor, obviously we have a very strong basis in Islam for competing for good.
And I'm quite sure you will find it in other religions as well, because as you know that all these religions, the main source of them is God, is one God. So he would give the same message to all of them.
Okay, so let's put it in the context of school now. Where should we be looking at introducing competition in schools? I mean, there's a variety of activities, lots of different subjects as we discussed before. Where should we be? Firstly, where is competition beneficial? Where is it a good thing?
Of course, if you are, as I said, that if you're running in the street by yourself, you're not motivated to do this. After some time, you may cool down. I mean, not continue. But if you're running and the following day you find your neighbor is running beside you, so it's a human or a natural response is that you want to compete with him, right? And he is the same thing. He's doing the same thing that any two people, and that's what you find in matches, you find it in every aspect of sports, you find that. So it's a natural thing that you compete with each other. And you find it in classes when the teacher does this. So he wants to use to the maximum potential of the students. This is the maximum that he can do. So let's use it. Let's get more from him. So, and you can do this by competing them. You can get 2 students compete in the class. You can get 2 groups of students. You can get 4 or 5 groups. And this is something very important for the teacher. Because if you make competition between all the time, 2 groups, the same 2 groups, it may result in negative result. We hate them because all the time they win.
So we'll get on to the dangers.
The inner talk of it. So you can do it on the level in the classroom, between 2 students, between 2 groups, between different groups, 5 or 6 groups, to see who is the best today. And this is something I think very motivating. You can do it academically. You can do it also on the sports. You can do it in drawing and in art. You can do it in all fields of education.
Okay. Well, I'm going to ask you after the break to highlight a little bit more about different areas, inshallah. And I hope you will be with us. Viewers, we're going to take a short break now. Stay with us. Stay tuned.
viewers. Hoda programs can be watched in the English section of the in-flight entertainment directory on board all Saudi airline flights, domestic and international. Sit back, relax and enjoy watching Hoda's entertaining and enlightening shows on your trip. Hoda wishes you a safe and successful journey. Hoda, a light in every home.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back, viewers, to our series of our schools, What is Missing. Just before the break, we've been discussing the subjects around competition. We have with us, of course, our Dr. Mamdouh. Welcome back, Doctor. We're discussing the benefits of competition in the classroom. We've talked about the general aspect and the basis of it in Islam, and now we've been talking about applying that the idea of competition in schools. We talked about classroom activities. What other areas, what other subjects can we apply competition in? Is it really across the whole board, or?
Yes, it's a very broad question, but it is across the board. Across every subject matter you can make competition, and this technique sometimes when it's not used in the classrooms, you feel that the students are bored. But when you make a lot of competition and you encourage them, and by the end of the day you find Group A got, for example, 17 stars, and Group B by the end of the day got 3 stars. There's a big difference. So tomorrow they sit together, and at the end of the day they try to take an action to say, okay, we're going to reread the lesson at home to prepare ourselves. Tomorrow we're going to enter another competition with them. And in this way, you find that they are competing. It's a motivation for students to study. It's a motivation to students for using the maximum ability that they have. So it has lots of benefits for the students and at the same time for the teacher, because he would achieve what we talked about before, that instead of it's just teacher-centered classroom into student-centered classroom. And that's what we need. The students, we need to see the students doing most of the work.
And you're seeing activity here,
of course,
as students become concerned.
And what I say by activities, I mean that academic activities as well.
Very important, maintaining the focus.
Of course, academic activities and sporting activities and art activities and everything. So you can apply this across the board throughout all the subjects.
Okay. And
this is one of the features of the good schools.
Well, of course, yes. So another feature that parents should be looking for. So how does competition prepare the students for the real world?
Because the real world, as you mentioned earlier, is competitive world. So when you work in a company, you want to compete with the other company. So you want to produce the best of what you have. And that's in fact what the companies do. They try to get the maximum of you. They ask you to work 8 hours, but in fact they get from you more than they get from 6 hours or 8 hours. They get 10 hours or more from you. And not just the number of hours. When they keep you involved in group discussion or group project or anything so they want to get the best of you. You've seen the product of IBM, you've seen the product of Macintosh or Apple, or you've seen the product, so we want to compete with them. We want to get something before them. And this links with are you well trained to make critical thinking? Are you equipped with the necessary skills? So if you want to compete, you need to be ready. You need to be equipped with some tools that would help you do that. The research, the critical thinking, the deep analysis, the investigation skills. If you are equipped with all these skills, you are ready for the competition, and the possibility of the success is much higher than that.
Okay, so we talked about the benefits of competition and the fact that this is a big step in preparing kids for the world. To what extent does competition, even if perhaps if you don't succeed, prepare you for the loss when you don't succeed? Is that something beneficial?
Yeah. First of all, I think that teachers, there are some techniques to avoid that. To teach the person that he can succeed and he can fail. And we can analyze this. Yes, sometimes we attribute this because the other team did a better job in everything. And sometimes we as Muslims, which makes us unique, we teach them that sometimes the loss is not just because of them, they did better job than you, but sometimes because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you did the maximum ability, the maximum you can. And the rest lies in the hand of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the maximum. We blame ourselves when we don't do the maximum. If it is within our capacities and we don't do it, we are lazy or we're lagging behind, we're doing any other thing that keeps away from this, from success and from competing. So it's our fault. But there are some situations in life that you try to compete with other people, but you find them, they are doing better than you. This was the competition between Abu Bakr and Umar. Because the best imagination, I paid half of my wealth, but there is another person who paid all his wealth.
Exactly, yeah. So we're exerting ourselves to the full,
This
and sometimes for us Muslims, we look at it that it's the Allah's decision.
Yeah, to lessen the negative effect, to decrease the negative effect on the hearts of people, especially on the students when they compete with each other. Okay, today we made Group A and Group B to compete with each other. If I divided the classroom into two groups, one Group A, one Group B, tomorrow, in order to avoid this irrational competition or the negative impact of this psychological impact of this competition, I would take some students from Group B to put them in Group A. So today, Group A is not Group A that was yesterday. And I take some students from here, put them here. And this way, okay, really, yesterday I belonged to Group B, but today I belong to Group A, right? But here you would learn another lesson. The most important thing is that when you work in an organized way, a professional way, you won. But when you worked here and it was not so well organized, that you lost. So here the lesson is that is the organization. So whatever group that you belong to, you need to organize it first before you step into the competition.
So going back to accountability, again, we've touched on accountability before. Do you think it's a case that sometimes when people haven't done their best, that we're able to learn from these situations as losers?
This is why we make competition. We learned from this competition, we learned that, okay, we lost. Why is that? We need to make self-evaluation for ourselves.
And again, critical thinking to analyze the problem.
Analyze that. Let's analyze why we lost this competition. And we start discussing it. Was it because of lack of organization? Was it because the tasks were not well defined? Was it because this reason or that reason? We make the analysis. And here's the benefit. Okay, we can say that we lost because of these reasons. Another level of the critical thinking or the deep analysis is that, okay, let's put these in priorities. Which one would go first? Is it reason number 7? Or is it reason number 2 or reason number 3? Here we are putting them in hierarchy of priorities. So now this is another level of deep thinking. They call it higher level of higher skills, thinking skills. This is much higher than, what did we lose because of this or because of this or because of this? I think we lost because of this reason, because this one is responsible for this and this. This is deep analysis.
Yeah, again, it's
higher levels of thinking.
يحاسب على نفسك.
حاسبوا أنفسكم.
Take account of yourself.
Yeah, take account. حاسبوا أنفسكم. Be responsible for yourself. Yeah, whether as an individual or as a group. So this is a great benefit, especially when you talk about high school students when they analyze this and to know that what is the reason behind this.
Okay, Doctor, some lovely benefits there, despite the fact that people might say, well, people we'll feel bad when they lose, but we're taking the positive and we're saying, okay, we can really benefit from that. Now, what about the dangers of competition happening in the classroom? What issues does that pose? You touched on it earlier, I stopped you, but if we can go in there now.
It's if the teacher is not aware of the advantage and the disadvantages of competition, he may fall into the trap of this. He may be a reason that students will have some sort of animosity between them or something like this. But if he knows how to do competitions and he knows all the conditions and the context that should be done, I think the result would be healthy results. So again, this takes us back to the importance of training. And this takes us to the principal and to the senior management and senior leadership of the school, where to use the best use of the budget, effective use of the budget when you direct it to training. Yes.
What about discipline in the class and the effects of sometimes, competition, as you said, there's a lot of feelings, people get very excited.
Yeah.
What's the key to maintaining discipline there?
Yeah. Again, there are some studies about this issue. They made some studies to see which one is the most effective classroom. The one that has a good teacher in teaching methods, or the one that has a good teacher who knows his students well and he has good relationship with them, or the one who manages the classroom well, or the one who uses a lot of technology and means media in the classroom. There are some studies that end up in saying that the one who manages the classroom well. So this opens the area for classroom management and its importance, because it guarantees discipline, it guarantees good planning for the lesson, it guarantees of good relationship between the teacher and the students. So all these elements would contribute to the success of the class. And all this will fall under classroom management.
Classroom management, okay. And obviously classroom management is related back to training.
Yeah, of course,
training, the ongoing training of the teachers.
It needs training.
So training is a key part. It keeps coming up, training
in our life, all our life.
The whole thing, yeah.
Training and training.
Right, so you've mentioned in previous episodes cooperation. Now you're mentioning competition. Now that would, to me, seem there's cooperation and there's competition. They seem to be at opposites. What's the relationship, and how do you reconcile that relationship between the two?
It's cooperation within a group and competition between two different groups. And instead of making even the competition between two different groups, we can make the competition between a variety of groups, so that you don't see that this is our enemy. So if you make 3 or 4 or 5 groups, so when the winner, right, would know that they are a winner, but they are not targeting this particular group. Right? But when you make it all the time, it's 2 groups, the same people, the same individual, the same. So this may lead to animosity or some sort of a hatred or sensitivity between them. So, but the cooperation is between the group, within the group.
Within the group, okay.
Yes, and the competition is between 2 groups or 5 groups or 7 groups, whatever number of groups that's available.
Okay. So really, we've got a number of different issues here. And we've said that competition, you can apply it across many different subjects. Can you just give us a little example of, for example, like art or something like that perhaps you wouldn't typically say, well, we can have competition here. How can we introduce competition in something
in
like
art,
that?
for example, in some schools that they allocate or they assign, this wall is for grade 12, and this wall is for grade 11 or grade 12A and 12B. And they say that, okay, you have 6 hours to make a drawing in this wall with all these details, right? And they give them the 6 hours. So they work together to produce something to compete with the other. Nobody knows, they don't know what is the product of those. So they have the budget, they have the time, they are given some opportunity to plan and to organize themselves, and they are given 6 hours, for example, in a weekend or an activity day, and they produce something after 6 hours. So you can see the planning of time, how to use the budget effectively, how to organize themselves, who is the leader, who is the assistant, who is the timekeeper, who does what. Yes. So on this level, you can see by the end of the day, those ones have achieved much better than those ones because, and again, we go back to analyze the reasons. They go back and analyze the reasons. There are lots of benefits.
Lots of things. And one, I think, interesting point here is again, the teacher giving a model of how to work within the group. You talked about issuing the timekeeper, the leader, group dynamics, exactly, and providing a model. That seems quite important.
It is very important. Again, there is something more than the subject matter that we study in the classroom. We need some skills. Yeah. This is the organizational skill. This is very important. Planning skills is another thing. Yes. Financial skills, how to use the money that you have in your hand in the best way, in the best effective way. If you give an amount of money for people who are untrained to how to use this amount of money, who have never done this before, definitely you will find some negative results. Okay. Yeah, they're not performing well. Yeah, but if you give it to people who are trained, yes, okay, when they make the division, okay, we should spend 30% on this item. We should spend 13 or 14% on this item because it comes in the second priority. This requires another skill, putting things in order. You know, that the whole concept of first things first. Okay. What is the most important thing?
Thank you very much, Doctor. Okay. We'll stop you there. That concludes our episode. Competition, an extremely important part of modern life, being woven into the fabric of a curriculum at school, and obviously opening up a whole box of different tools and skills that we hope will be applicable in the real world. I'm very glad that you were able to join us for this episode. We would like to see you again, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Oh, sing, children of the world, come together and hear the call. Sing, children of the world, Islam will unite us all. Sing, children of the world, come together and hear the call. Sing, children of the world, Islam will unite us all. Subhanallah walhamdulillah wallahu akbar. Subhanallah walhamdulillah wallahu akbar.